Hey there, friends. I know a lot of you enjoy the phone calls that I make to various politicians and companies who aren't necessarily doing the things that the Second Amendment community approves of. I enjoy those too. Well, you're in luck today. But first, go check out my friends, Attorneys on Retainer. I mentioned in a video a couple of weeks ago that insurance companies will keep you out of the poorhouse, but attorneys will keep you out of the big house. Attorneys on Retainer does just that. There are only 3 qualifiers for coverage. These are if you're charged with a crime, misdemeanor, or a felony, that you reasonably and in good faith assert self-defense as a defense to the criminal charge that you are being charged with. And of course, the third qualifier, you have to have already been a customer of Attorneys on Retainer prior to making that very important phone call to them. Go to attorneysonretainer.us. Again, attorneysonretainer.us. When you sign up, use my discount code FTATF and get a massive discount on your policy. Again, FTATF for huge savings, attorneysonretainer.us. This comes from a recent AmmoLand article. For the past 20 years, Colorado's K-12 schools have had an affordable option to protect their children. School boards have been able to authorize selected employees as an armed security team. These security team members have had background checks, been vetted, been trained, have passed qualification tests on par with those tests given to law enforcement, and have been on campuses throughout the state with zero problems since their inception. Under this 20-year-old law, its local control provision has allowed for rural school districts and interested charter schools to authorize armed staff and for districts like Boulder and Denver to not authorize armed staff. However, on Friday, House Bill 241310 was introduced by rabidly anti-gun Colorado Democrats Eliza Hamrick and Jennifer Parenti. The key feature of this bill is the complete elimination, according to this AmmoLand article, of the current armed school staff protocols that have been operating safely in Colorado for 20 years and the elimination of the ability to carry on campuses of higher education. The K-12 schools in Colorado that have armed security teams represent schools in 41 of Colorado's school districts. They have had armed security teams under the existing 20-year-old law with no negative issues. The armed school employees who have been through FASTER Colorado training number around 400, and we know of more who get their training elsewhere. So what is this law attempting to improve? Again, guys, this article is from AmmoLand. In addition to operating with no negative issues, there have been a handful of reports from FASTER trained schools through the years that led to the conclusion having armed staff has been a deterrent to violence on campus. Duh. In fact, according to the Crime Prevention Research Center, schools that allow armed staff haven't seen any school shootings during school hours. If this bill were enacted into law and schools wanted to deploy an armed presence on campus, it would cost them far more money than most schools can spend, especially the smaller rural districts. This is a financial burden on those schools that can least afford it. They can't afford to hire school resource officers, and they certainly can't afford the private security force the bill would still allow. This amounts to a giant unfunded mandate for the schools that can't afford the more expensive options. Their only other choice is to go without security, which no one thinks is an acceptable choice. Obviously, guys, this story looks like a pretty big deal. I feel like in many cases, these people do knee-jerk things, and it often makes you wonder if they're looking to disarm schools, because obviously they deny funding all the time to harden these schools. So if they have the one thing in there that is provably a deterrent, why would they vote to take that away? It's almost like some of these Democrats want negative things to happen in the schools so that they can pass more gun laws. Again, if there's a successful program that has had zero negative impacts to the community, the schools, or anybody else in the state of Colorado in these school districts, why would you look to change that, or better or worse, remove that program and install a mandate that now creates a certain roadblock, whether it's funding or training? I took the liberty of contacting both of these representatives in Colorado to ask them that very question. First one I called was Miss Hamrick.
Sorry?
Representative Hamrick
Is not available. Record your message at the tone.
So with no answer there, I decided to call the other representative working on this bill, Miss Parenti. Now, I will say this. Guys, you know I have a special needs son, and he is here. He makes a little bit of noise in the background. If that offends you, don't watch the video. But he is certainly present, and I think you might even catch a glimpse of Grandma got run over by a reindeer playing in his headphones in the background. For that, I apologize, but I love my son, and I certainly don't apologize for him. Here is the call with Miss Parenti's staff member.
Representative Parenti's office.
Yes, ma'am. Is Miss Parenti in?
No, she is not. What can I help you with?
Can you explain a little bit about her position on House Bill 241310?
241310.
Yes.
So that's actually our bill.
Okay.
Where the prime spots are on it. So
Okay.
she is supportive of it.
Okay. Can you explain her position on it, just other than her being supportive?
Yeah, of course. So the bill basically outlines that in order for schools to have armed school security officers, which are SSOs, not the SROs, which are police officers, in order for them to carry armed weapons on campus, they have to go through a certain training. This in no way is like eliminating SSOs or anything to that degree. It's just creating a standard of things that they need to comply to in order to carry armed weapons on school campuses.
Okay. So my understanding was that there was the persons already armed and on campus already received training.
No, they are in no way required right now to receive training. The only training that they have to have, or the only thing that they have to be an armed school security officer at this moment is to have a conceal and carry permit. That means that they don't have to have firearms training, they don't have to go through a psych eval, they don't have to do a school security officer training. It's just having a conceal and carry permit. So this bill is adding standards to being an armed school security officer on campuses. Now, if they're not armed, they obviously don't have to go through firearms training or anything like that. But if they are armed, they have to go through these trainings and comply with these standards in order to carry armed weapons on school campuses.
So does it remove funding that's currently available?
No, there's nothing in the bill that removes any kind of funding.
So, and I guess my question to that is, what's the point of the bill if there's already people doing this now? Is it going to take people off of campus that are currently guarding these children until they go through some sort of training that you're mandating?
So I believe that there's an effect by date on the bill. I'm not exactly sure what it is that these school security officers have to get the training by. It's not an immediate date, like right when the bill passes. I believe there's a grace period. I'm not exactly sure what that is. But they do indeed have to go through these trainings. And I think it's not a matter of getting rid of SSOs, but I think that we can all agree that in order for these individuals to be carrying firearms on our schools, that they need to have these standards.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I understand what you're saying. So would anybody that's currently performing this job, and actually they've done a really good job over the last 20 years, any of these people who wouldn't get this particular mandated training would be forced out of protecting these children?
Truthfully, I'm not exactly sure what the compliance by date is.
But there is a compliance by date, I guess is what I'm saying, and if they don't comply, they would be forced out of protecting these kids?
Truthfully, I'm not exactly sure what the bill language exactly is on it. Let me
I guess
see if I can pull it up real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, my apologies. I don't think it has a date that I can pull up super quickly for it. If you want to give me your email, I can give you more information on it when I have it. I just don't have it in front of me at this moment.
Sure. My email is paul at LAA .bz. Now, obviously, if you're passing something that's mandating training, and that's different than what there is out there currently, I would think that anyone who doesn't comply with this new mandated training, who's already been doing the job of protecting these children, would be asked to stop doing that job if they didn't get the new mandated training. That's how I understand mandated training. I'm just making sure I understand that right.
Yeah, I just don't want to give you any definitive answer because I don't have the bill language in front of me.
Okay. When you
I just
email
don't wanna
me,
give you the wrong answer but when I have it, I will email it to you.
And you can provide that answer for me in the email?
I believe so, as long as it's within the bill language. I can also attach a copy of the bill as well for you if you want it. But yeah, when I have that information, I can email it to you.
Do you know what kind of costs are associated with the training that's going to be mandated?
Sorry, say that one more time. You cut out a little bit.
Do you know what the cost is going to be that's going to be associated with the mandated training, and who's going to have to pay for that? Will the state pay for that, or will the individual have to pay for that?
So it will not be the individual, and it will not be the state. It will be the schools and the school districts. I believe that the training costs will fall on. But again, I don't have the bill language, so
Okay.
I can also answer that question again for you definitively when I look at it.
Yeah, I'd be
But
curious.
I believe it's the schools and the school boards.
I would be curious on that.
District.
I'd be curious on that too, because, you know, if a program has been successful for 20 years and it's not mandated, I don't understand, I guess, why the individual or anybody else would be responsible other than the state if the state is the one mandating the training. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate it. I look forward to the email, and I appreciate you taking my call.
Yeah, and then, so your first name is Paul,
Paul.
correct?
Correct.
And then what's the last name? I
Gla-
don't see that on the email.
Glasgow. Glasco.
Let's go. Okay, yeah, I will look for those answers for you and email you back.
Okay. Hey, thank you for your time.
Of course, have a good day.
You too. So some of the things she said certainly deviated a little bit from what the AmmoLand article stated. I'm not saying that either side is right or wrong. What I'm saying is I think it's nice of her to offer to send me a follow-up email. I thought that was very nice. She was certainly very courteous, as you saw, very friendly. I think she probably understands the nature of my call based on the questions that I asked, but yet she was still very forthright and seemed to be extremely polite and forthcoming with whatever information she could apply based on her current knowledge of the bill. I'm hopeful that I do get this follow-up email with her and can generate some correspondence back and forth, because I'm sure I'm going to have some follow-up questions. So just know this, I will be following back up on this, those of you in Colorado, and as I state all the time, these types of bills are important to me, because even though it may be in one particular state, that doesn't affect the rest of us in 49 other states. We often see many of the state representatives and senators in these individual states who aren't very bright, and a lot of times they will copy and paste a bill that might pass in another state. So I think it's always worth noting that whenever we see something like this, we don't just ignore it because we're several states over and we don't care about it. I think we should care about all of these. And in this particular case, I would be very worried that some kind of a mandate might come in here and potentially take away something that's worked for the last 20 years in keeping our children safe.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.